Hello and welcome to Opening Bars. Light My Fire was written in 1966 and released by The Doors in January of 1967. Although Jim was the vocalist and the primary songwriter and poet in the group, it's guitarist Robbie Krieger who is the initiating composer of this piece. You may notice that this introduction here is slightly faster, about 3.5% faster in fact, and higher in pitch than what you may be more familiar with based on the original LP recording. And if you listen to the original 45 RPM single, it too is different. This was brought to the attention of Bruce Botnick by Professor Michael Hicks, who noted that in video and audio live performances of The Doors, and the sheet music and statements of band members, they all show this song in a key almost a half step higher than the stereo LP release. As of the 2006 remasters and the 40th anniversary collection, this recording, as well as Break On Through, have been speed corrected. Let's look at some fascinating harmonic movement. I suppose a brief history of how this piece came about might explain the curious mishmash of sonic borrowings. Certainly, it is Robbie who came up with the original idea, notably the first verse lyrics and the A minor 7, F sharp minor 7 progression. The relationship between these two chords is what is termed chromatic medians, meaning that the roots of the chords are related by a major or minor third, and that they share a note in common. It's Jim Morrison who penned the second verse, and the contrast in style couldn't be more evident. Robbie writes, "You know that it would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you, 'Girl, we couldn't get much higher.'" Then Jim adds, "The time to hesitate is through. No time to wallow in the mire. Try now, we can only lose, and our love become a funeral pyre." As for the chorus, it feels like a weird mix of A major mixolydian with the D major feeling like 4, and that B major being a preemptive 5 of 5 perhaps of the E major, which pushes us back towards the A. Honestly, I don't know what to do with this. It's awesome. John Densmore adds his own little touch with that very cool Latin rhythm, reminiscent of the 1964 bossa nova hit, The Girl from Ipanema. Ray Manzarek, who was also heavily influenced by jazz, is said to have spearheaded that improvisational section, based on Coltrane's progression in My Favorite Things. Yes, that famous tune from The Sound of Music. And there does seem to be a similarity in the way that Ray's piano and Robbie's guitar trade solos, in the same way that Coltrane's saxophone and Tyner's piano do. Ray is also quoted as saying that the bass line was inspired by the song Blueberry Hill by Fats Domino. Now, Robbie says that he came up with all those crazy chords, as he calls it, saying, "I'm going to put every chord I know into this song and see what happens." What he ended up with is an odd series of all major chords, G, D, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, and then A. And that's when Ray was left to make something more of it, and came up with all that pseudo-psychedelic J.S. Bach-like stuff. Apparently, in the earliest performances, it used to be a bridge device to get from the solos back into the verse. But when they came to record it, their producer, Paul Rothschild, convinced them to use it as the opening and closing musical statements. The rest, as they say, is history. You can put all the labels you want on these opening bars, but it might be sufficient to say that it is primarily just a cycle of fourths and fifths, with the A being a kind of centering tone. And to be clear, this is not to be confused with a tonality, just the note itself. Let's look at a more complete transcription now. It really isn't that complicated if you think of it as that harmonic cycle and the melody as a sequence of melodic patterns. Here we have little turnarounds at the beginning of the first 3 measures. And descending runs for the second half of each bar. And an elongated final bar to make an unusual 5-bar opening statement. Because of all of the crazy harmonic movement, I think the ears just need a moment to collect themselves, and the doors provide that brief moment of respite at measure 5. The left hand has a constant rhythm outlining the triad upon which the chord is built. Use the fingering provided. The 5th finger is too weak to use consistently here. Try it both ways and you'll see what I mean. Let's just play that alone now, with a click track. The right hand is just a series of 8th notes and 16th notes. Again, use the fingering provided right from the start. It will truly help you. Now that you know all of the notes, we can briefly address an aspect of technique. Now, Ray was playing the bass line with his left hand on a Fender Rhodes piano bass, while performing the right hand on his Vox Continental, and it deliberately and stylistically does not sound particularly cleanly executed. That doesn't mean that you can use that as an excuse to play sloppily, because playing these models of synths are far more technically demanding than the touch of a modern acoustic piano. If you have ever tried to play those authentic instruments, you will know exactly what I mean. My advice is to keep the 16ths as precisely even as possible, and that means not cutting the 8ths short. So I mentally place a small tenuto or a hold on those 8ths to provide a proper amount of space for the 16ths. Let's play that all together now. If you really want to challenge yourself, try to imagine this in 7 flats, so that when you play along, more or less, with the original LP recording, you can then also improv your own solo too. I would recommend, however, that it would be far better to simply record the A minor 7, B minor 7 on a loop on your piano and play on top of that. I hope you enjoyed your lesson today. Remember, don't just play notes. Make music. Until next time, thanks for listening.